Hey, and welcome back to the Art of a Life Well Lived. I am Christine Regan Lake, and it's good to be back here again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, today I want to talk to you about four self care commitments that you can make to yourself after you've ended a toxic relationship or a narcissistic abusive relationship. So, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I would love to hear from you if you want to share some of your thoughts of what you'd like me to talk about, any specific topics or questions you have. I love your input, and I certainly want to be creating content that you find valuable. So, if you happen to like my videos, I would love it if you could like, share, and subscribe to my channel, as that helps my algorithm to help me get my message out to those who want and need to hear it. Okay, so let's get started. Four self-care tips that you can commit to after narcissistic abuse or a toxic relationship. So the first one obviously is forgive yourself. It is very easy after a toxic relationship to beat yourself up, to experience tremendous feelings of shame and guilt that you should have known better, that you should have done better, that you allowed yourself to be treated like that by someone that you trusted. And it can be very, very unhealthy. It can cause long-term health issues. And shame is the lowest vibrating emotion that you can experience. When you lower your frequency of your body, when you feel those emotions of shame, it lowers your frequency and it opens you up to more diseases, cancer, degenerative diseases, autoimmune issues, things like that. So it is super important for you to have compassion for yourself, for the person you were in that relationship. Narcissistic abuse is kind of like this, it's a very slow, insidious, kind of almost invisible disease, this like kind of creeping thing that happens in your connection. You know, you can be in a relationship, there are marriages that have lasted, 50 years, that were 50 years of toxicity and abuse. Whatever your situation was, whatever your scenario was, whether it was 6 months, a year, 10 years, 30 years, whatever. The thing is that more than likely you grew up in a toxic environment in your childhood, and so that is the resonance that your body and your subconscious mind were used to. You were entrained as a child to experience abuse, manipulation, guilting, toxic shaming, things like that. And so that became your new normal. That became your internal thermostat. So when you met someone who fit that resonance, who reflected back to you what you perceived as a child to believe love is, that's why it felt like home, and that's why you stayed. And the other thing is that when you're in those toxic abusive relationships, the longer you've been in them, the deeper the trauma bonding, the harder the connection is, the harder it is to cut your losses and walk away. So forgiveness is absolutely the first self-care ritual that you want to embrace to move forward after narcissistic abuse. Self-forgiveness isn't easy. I can tell you from my own path. Our ego is holds on to stuff. It's like kind of what's that what's that animal that bites on and clamps and it doesn't, the kimono dragon, it bites on and it like the jaw locks. It's like kind of like your ego clasps on to that vibration of guilt and shame, and it's like self-flagellation. It just constantly over and over and over again replaying, and ruminating in your mind all the times you allowed yourself to be violated, have your personal boundaries stepped on, violated, ignored your needs, ignored your essence and your being disrespected, right? So the ego wants to clamp down on that and hold on to that guilt and the shame and to keep beating yourself up, but it's highly destructive. And so it's so important for you to forgive yourself and know that you were doing the very best that you could at that time. And now, as you're healing and you're growing and you're evolving, you're choosing differently. But have self-compassion for yourself, because narcissistic abuse is extremely traumatic. The wounds go very deep into the psyche, into your heart, into your soul, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to find the strength to leave and to choose yourself. So the first one is forgiveness. The second one is, now that you finally left, or maybe they discarded you, whatever the situation is, now that the connection is over, now you have to make a sacred covenant with yourself. Never again. That you will never again allow someone to disrespect you, to cut you down, to put you down, to guilt you, to shame you, to belittle you. That you will never, ever allow someone to violate your boundaries again. That you will have the strength and the courage to own your voice and put that person in their place, and to walk away from any scenario that robs you of your self-respect. A lot of people stay in connections that are highly destructive to them because of their fear of being alone. The question you need to ask yourself is, do I want to stay in a toxic relationship that is slowly sucking the life out of me, or am I going to choose life, and am I going to walk away from this situation because my self-love, my self-worth demands that I leave this toxic situation? And you can love people that you still need to walk away from. The thing is, it's a very beautiful concept that, love is all you need. It's a complete myth. It's a really beautiful thought, but it's a complete myth, because the reality is that most people drop down to fear rather than rising to love. And when they're in an intimate connection and they bump up against their triggers, rather than being able to be vulnerable and admit and communicate and talk to their partner about their trigger, what they do then is instead they lash out and they blame the partner, or they shame the partner and they put them down. It is your responsibility to protect yourself, to make sure that you will never again allow someone else's inability or refusal to own their shit, to take responsibility for their thoughts, words, actions, behaviors in your connection. And if they continue to violate your boundaries and ignore your needs, it is up to you to take the action necessary to protect your self-respect. So commit to yourself, never again. Never, never again. So the third self-care principle would be to re-embrace your connection to God. When you have been in a long-term abusive relationship, what can happen is that cycle, that negative toxic cycle of abuse, of the being degraded, being put down, being belittled, things like that, that will make you doubt yourself, doubt your self-worth. And it's so important for you to turn into God, because what also happens is, on top of doubting your self-worth and your intrinsic value as a being, it can also destroy kind of your faith in humanity. If you're a man, it can make you believe that all women are evil, or if you're a woman, it can make you believe that all men are evil, or that they're all, bad, whatever bad is, right? So it's so important for you to turn to God, because there is beauty in humanity. It's not everybody is toxic, and not everybody is out to abuse you and things like that. And when you've been in either a long-term relationship or a series of toxic relationships, your view of the opposite sex, or if it's same sex, whatever, like your view of intimate partners can become incredibly skewed, and you become unable to be objective. you start painting everybody with the brush of everyone's a narcissist. And that doesn't serve you either, because it's not fair to the people that you're judging. So you have to, by re-embracing God, inviting God into your spirit, into your heart, and asking God to help heal your heart, to help heal the trauma that you have endured that has caused you to paint this canvas that, everyone is bad, everyone is toxic, everyone's a narcissist, nobody's worth my time. You have to invite God into your heart to heal that, so that you don't carry that trauma with you into the future. And if you desire to have a relationship, maybe you don't. If you desire to have a next relationship in your life, you're going to need God's healing in your heart to be able to open up to it, so that you can invite it into your life, and that when it shows up, your heart is open and you can receive it. The fourth one would be to embrace what gives you joy. If you've been in a toxic relationship for any period of time, it tends to suck the life out of you, and you end up in kind of this rote treadmill existence. So re-embracing the things that bring you joy, whether it's reading, cooking, traveling, meditation, yoga, whatever it is for you, taking the time to carve out of your day a special period of time every day to truly just what gives you joy. It doesn't have to be productive. It doesn't have to make you money. It's simply, it can be both of those things, but you're not doing it because of that. You're simply doing it because it brings you joy to your soul to do it. And when you bring joy to your soul, it will help you to have a rebirth, right? That phoenix rising out of the ashes. Joy has a tremendous healing impact on the heart and the soul, that when you are doing something that is deeply nourishing to you, it can start filling in all the little nooks and crannies in the cracks in your foundation that have resulted over the years that you've been in a destructive, toxic relationship or toxic job, whatever it is. So again, the 4 self-care rituals are to 1, forgive yourself. Acknowledge that you did the very best that you could at that time, and now you're doing better. Self-care, self-compassion is so important. 2 is make a covenant. This is like a sacred covenant that you will never, ever, ever again allow yourself to be abused emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially, whatever it was for you in your scenario. You will never again allow yourself to be abused. You will commit to having healthy boundaries. You will trust your gut instinct. You will never ignore another red flag again. The 3rd one is to re-embrace God in your life, to snuggle and nestle in God into your heart, into your soul, to nestle in closer, right? So that you can ask God to come into your heart, to wash away the wounds that you have, experienced because of those past relationships. And the 4th one is to embrace what gives you joy. Joy has a deeply healing impact on the soul, and when you start to embrace the things that give you joy, it will ignite a rebirth in your soul. It will ignite like the phoenix rising out of the ashes, and you will be so nourished, and you will be amazed at how your perspective on life can shift, and you'll see that your whole frequency, your whole vibration as a soul, as a being, rises from that joy. Joy is deeply healing. So I hope you found value in that. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thanks. Bye.